Hello, my name is Michael NARANJO and welcome to Real Music Works. Today I'm going to talk about the very first album that I did. It was called Michael NARANJO, Believe. This situation, I never knew that it was possible. I came from a working class family. My parents couldn't really afford any of that studio time and all of that professional things that are required when recording an album. So I was very excited when I received the news. It was the day that I walked out of my final year at school, and my dad pulled out this record contract. He says, boy, we couldn't tell you this, but when you did that competition, they were very interested then already because you were underage. Your mother signed the contract, and you've actually got a record deal right here. So my dad handed it over to me when he picked me up that day from school. It was probably the happiest day of my life, but little did I know what I was going to get into. I had basically, at that point, since the competition, had taken music quite seriously. I injured myself on a skateboarding situation, and I was left with my foot up for about 6 to 8 weeks. And at that point, my dad was quite lenient and said, "Yeah, man, here, take the guitar." And there was a lot of people around me that would share their music with me, really good people. And I had this collection of CDs that weren't mine, but I started listening to these like extreme, Pantera, Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, this, that, boom, boom, boom. It was like a lot heavier music, but in all of that heaviness, the sound was also quite, it was impactful. So I started picking up the guitar, and between all of those CDs and what was on radio, I would try and use my ears to listen to the songs and follow it. And I think that's where the ear training began, to be honest. So at the end of this whole time that I was healing up and ready to go, I had about 6 or 7 songs. And at that point in time, I sent a demo through from this guy that I was recording at, my father's friend, the electrician that used to work at a place called Pacoma in Malmesbury. He had a little home studio, Boere Musiek, it's like Afrikaans folk music. And so that demo that was produced at that stage for about 3-4 months is what ended up in Danny Antill's hands at Brettian Productions in Johannesburg. So he was one of the judges that night. So it was wonderful. So the way they treated me was like hectic. I was received at the airport. I was staying at a guy called Bob Hanson's house, such an amazing human being. He was a radio presenter. The songs were getting playlisted already, and I was just going to go through the motion and get the record done. Then this is where it really got real. Me arriving to the studio, and I had to be in a little booth while the live band had music sheets and everything, and they started playing, and I was completely lost and completely overwhelmed. My producer came into the booth and said, "Michael, listen, are you struggling with pronouncing words?" So I was shocked. I knew that, So the band kind of just left for the day, and I was sitting down with my music producer, my friend Danny Antill at the time, bless his soul. And he guided me through the process. So he took me to have speech therapy before the studio sessions even began. So early in the morning, we're talking about the sun still down, and we're going through traffic before it's really crazy Johannesburg traffic. And on the way back out of speech therapy, straight to the studio, we took 1 or 2 songs, and it was all about the pronunciation, the projection, and how we really, I think that's where the artist development thing, I saw how it happened. I just didn't know what I was walking into. So by the time the guys started playing the songs, I was a bit more familiarized. At the end of the day, they would make me rough mixes with no vocals so that I could take it home and practice, and Danny would sit with me and practice with me at the piano. I really was so afraid to sing and record because what I heard sounded terrible. I was like, I wanted to be a guitarist. I did not want to be a singer in the first place. But this opportunity arose, and the next thing, we did 1 or 2, 3 songs. One of those songs got a radio There was a radio presenter by the name of Titch Mataz. He used to play it on 5FM like a lot. That record sold 5,000 copies. 17-year-old kid from Malmesbury in a very new South Africa Rainbow Nation. Just the song hits. I mean, it's a Christian, right? It was a Christian record company. So let's call it crossover music, sort of like, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith from the 80s and the 90s, that sound, So I was very influenced by those artists such as Petra, White Cross. I mean, you name it. There's just some King's X. It was just a really good time to absorb music as a young man. I picked up Goo Goo Dolls, Boy Named Goo for the first time. Fell in love with a track. It was like the only acoustic track on there, a Name. That the song was Name. And then I just started with this whole journey with the music. By the time the album finished, I was so overwhelmed. By the time I got back to school, coming back to reality, put it that way, I kept on going to speech therapy. I kept on going to, vocal lessons to get, to sit with a piano teacher, and she would help me. And so it was an affair that I ended up staying over at the hostel, not wanting to go home because the school hall had this amazing piano. And because I spent so much time with Danny, and I love Michael W. Smith, and I love all those crazy 80 songs, Jonathan Cain from Journey, all that kind of piano presentation, David Bryan from Bon Jovi. The piano had such a powerful part of rock and roll, or music in general, that it was important for me just to have that in my music. So yeah, that was, I guess, telling my mom, sorry, I'm not going to come home this weekend, stay over, even when it was off weekend. That means everybody go home. And I would just stay over at the hostel, and right across the road was the hall. And on Fridays, they leave the window open after physical education. And the window would be slightly open of the hall because they'd lock it up, And I would just jump in over the top, into the cloakroom and go and make my way to the piano. Teachers didn't really say anything. They heard there was piano coming from the hall because there was a teacher living on the cross side, and it was a very small town. But the way I was playing piano, I ended up sometimes just sleeping. I would go and eat dinner. The people would be in the kitchen, or I would just make myself at home to this piano. It was a huge grand piano. It was phenomenal. I used the big sheet that covers it, or the big cloth that covers it. I used to sleep in it. It was just crazy. It was just a really amazing relationship I had. Sometimes when I had to go home over the weekend, I would go and hang out with my friend called Morgan and jam with him with his band. And so I had a bit of both worlds. It was, and then the came out. I was like, what? And that photo was actually taken at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Yes, that was taken there at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. And it's so funny. Yeah, I look at that photo, it's just it's a really long time ago. Yeah. But yeah, that was it, It was story of the very first album and the the uphill that I had. I never knew what I was going into. It was just a really, really, really difficult situation. I learned so much, and it kind of set me up for the next record, which is Turning Point. So yes, that is the story of Believe that was released in Productions. Letitia Ace did the artwork, and wonderful people, the very people that I interacted with the radio station. And Corr Uys, bless his heart, I love him so much. Thank you. All these years later, I'm still going to be thanking these beautiful people that they were that team. I felt that I could bounce between these people because, life at home wasn't that easy. So music was a phenomenal escape, and I'm just grateful. And I hope you enjoyed this. Go check it out. It's Michael NARANJO. It's online everywhere. Go check it out. It's Michael NARANJO Believe, and there it is. Real music works. I hope you enjoyed it.